Ooh, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 101 of the Stand Up Guys podcast. That's right, we're taking everyone to school today. I'm your host, the incomparable Zach Jones, joined as always by the Loki to my Thor, Lester Jones.
The smart one.
But not the sexy one. Well, some people would disagree with that, the whole Tom Hiddleston of it all.
The greasy, creepy one.
And we also got the Ninth Wonder, Chocolate Thunder, eating that stink eye and getting that pink eye, lover of the vag and the tarnished sheriff's badge. He's got 2 for the pink, 1 for the stink, tattooing the ladies with his Indian ink, the phenomenal A.J. Singh.
Keep your tarnished sheriff's badge to yourself.
Well, guys, usually we make with the small talk when we open an episode, but we just got out of the theater watching Thor Love and Thunder, and so we're going to review that for you fine people right now. Anybody who has not watched or listened to one of our previous reviews, what we're going to do is briefly, we're just going to talk about our general non-spoilery impressions of the film, and then we'll go into a deep dive, more spoiler-filled review. But just off the top, Rotten Tomatoes official synopsis of the movie is thus. Thor Love and Thunder finds Thor on a journey unlike anything he's ever faced, a quest for inner peace, but his retirement is interrupted by a galactic killer known as Gorr the God Butcher, who seeks the extinction of the gods. To combat the threat, Thor enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who to Thor's surprise inexplicably wields his magical hammer Mjolnir. As the mighty Thor, together they embark upon a harrowing cosmic adventure to uncover the mystery of the God Butcher's vengeance and stop him before it's too late. The movie stars Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster / the mighty Thor, Christian Bale as Gorr, Tessa Thompson as King Valkyrie, Taika Waititi is the voice of Korg, and Russell Crowe as Zeus. All right, guys. What were your general impressions of the film? Just kind of what overall, without spoiling, what kind of things worked for you, what didn't, before we get into things?
I like the whole Ragnarok, colorful, popping, fun aspects of the movie. That was really great. But I did feel like it was lacking some emotional depth. I could have been more involved emotionally, and it could have had more at risk, and that could have been brought to the top a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Before I saw the movie, the only kind of criticism I heard was like some people said maybe it leaned into the comedy a little too much, and this maybe undercut the tension.
Yeah. I could definitely have gone a little further emotionally. I could have felt I could have gotten the heartstrings pulled a little bit more.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, as good as Christian Bale is, like, Gorr never seemed as kind of dangerous and menacing, and as big as a threat as I wanted. Because again, they always kind of go back to the humor over and over again, and I'm like, I want this guy to, I want to feel stakes. I want to, I think the Marvel universe as a whole does that sometimes, where like I like that there is humor in the MCU, but I think sometimes they go to it so much that like you never feel a sense of real tension.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I agree with that.
What about you?
Yeah, well, I really like his motivations as a character. I like that part of the story for the Gorr the God Butcher.
I do too, yeah.
But I do feel like he should have killed some important people along the way. Yeah,
I actually expected his death count to be higher.
Mm-hmm. Well, like they allude to it.
They allude
they
to
show screens with a bunch of gods dying, and they do some stuff. But yeah, it's never anyone you're really attached to.
Right.
So yeah, I think that was probably a mistake.
But I mean, overall performance-wise, I think Chris Hemsworth continues to be good as Thor. I like Natalie Portman coming back. Christian Bale was very good. Like except once we get into it, like I think maybe Russell Crowe's performance was a little bit weird. We'll get into it, but
it was bordering on racist.
I know. He made a choice, and it was a weird
choices
one.
were made.
But other than,
I just bought into the performance. I was like, maybe that's his best impression.
So yeah, I would say I like this movie. It's probably my third favorite. I think I still like Thor 1 the best and Thor Ragnarok second, but I don't know if you guys would even be able to.
I'd say it's my second favorite Thor after Ragnarok. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ragnarok was my favorite. Then probably number one. Then this one maybe. I don't know. One other thing is that like I felt that the relationship between Thor and Lady Thor could have been a little better.
That's another thing is like
I didn't really feel anything.
I mean, maybe we should get into it more in spoilers, but it's one of those relationships that we never really got in the first Thor. Okay, they have a romance, and then eventually they just kind of allude to it. And I think Age of Ultron that it didn't work out or whatever. And
I thought at that time it was because Natalie Portman was like, "Nah, I'm done."
Yeah, I
thought she just dropped out.
she kind of did. Yeah, I don't think she was happy with her experience on Thor 2, which nobody really liked that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of try to make up for it in this movie where you get this montage, but I don't know if it works all that well or not. But should we just get into spoiler country?
Yeah, let's move forward.
Okay, guys, spoilers ahead. I'll try to remember as much of this as I can, but I'll need help. So we open in the desert. Gore is carrying his daughter in his arms, and basically we just get the sense that there's this terrible drought, and they're basically just dying. They need water, they need food, and they're just wasting away. Eventually, he collapses, and we get this sense that he's devoutly into a certain god. He names that god. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I forgot.
But he basically prays to that god. He's like, please bring us water, not for me, but for my daughter. You can tell that he definitely loves his daughter. He's holding his daughter in his arms, but no god helps him out, and she dies.
That's by the way, that's Chris Hemsworth's daughter in real life. That girl.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So she acts too, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. So yeah, he ends up burying her in the desert, and then all of a sudden he hears this weird voice calling him, and it calls him to what looks like an oasis, this spring in the desert where there's water, and he gets goes in the water, gets a drink of water, and then he sees this fruit. He starts eating the fruit, and then all of a sudden there's the god that he prayed to, and he's like, "Oh, what's this animal doing, eating all my fruit or whatever?" And basically, right away, we just get the sense that this god's a real piece of shit, right? Yeah. And he's doesn't give a shit at all about Christian Bale and Gore, and he's basically but I pray to you. You're supposed to give us our great something or other,
eternal gift or something.
Yeah, something along those lines. And at some point, he's like. I thought this was a little expositional where he's like, "Oh, we just got the necro sword so that no god can be killed or whatever, because it's the only thing that can kill a god or whatever." So he had a very expositional line, but whatever. But anyway, eventually, he tells Gore that he doesn't give a shit about him, and he just picks him up by the neck and starts choking him to death. But then it's the necro sword basically chooses Gore, and it goes up into his hand, and he's able to kill that god with it. And then basically this is where he makes his vow. He's like, fuck the gods, I'm gonna kill all of them basically. Anything to add about that scene or anything?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty good.
But like you were saying, I really do like his motivation, the fact that it's basically a revenge tale. They took his daughter, and the god that was supposed to help him fucked him over.
Yeah, he just feels betrayed and
Right.
lost, and so pretty good villain in that setup, really.
So then we move to Thor on some planet with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you get this narration by Korg, and this will come back a couple times where he does these narration bits. But basically, he's been having these adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, and
now, is there going to be a Guardians movie where he's part of it, or they're just going to skip past that?
Well, now I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
Because the end of what was it, Endgame, made you think that maybe they're going to have
a team
a large team up adventure together. But this movie made me seem like no, we got that truncated adventure in this movie, and that was really it.
Yeah, it was kind of slightly frustrating because it brings them in. I'm like, oh, I like these characters or whatever, and then like they don't do anything, and then they get in the ship and they leave, and they're like, bye bye.
Yeah, if you were looking forward to this movie for the Guardians, you get a very brief taste of them, and that's it.
Yeah, it's weird because Thor's like meditating on this hill or something under a tree, and I guess they've been fighting and dying. I don't know. And someone comes to him and he's like, hey, you want to fight? And he's like, yeah. And then he just comes down and kicks everybody's ass.
Well, that's another question I had. So in the synopsis on the Rotten Tomatoes, it said like, his retirement or whatever, and then he's like he's trying to retire or something. And I is that the sense we were supposed to get at the very beginning of the movie?
Well, like in the trailers, they sell that. Like, oh, he's found peace. He's not fighting. He's like, I don't know. And I figured that way, like somehow he's going to overcome this in the story, but it was pretty much never there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he sat under the tree apparently for a while because his axe
had roots
was planted and had roots, but yeah, I didn't really get that sense.
But basically, in the like narration by Korg, we kind of got like his whole backstory. Plus, like it showed him getting, and this was in the trailer as well. He gets fit and he loses the fat Thor, gets back into like banging shape, But yeah, basically the Guardians on this alien planet come up to him and they're like, "Hey, we need your help in this fight." So they go down there. And, like, there's this alien race that's being, like, troubled by this other alien race. And, yeah, like you were saying, Thor basically, he throws off his robe and he's in, like, this jacket and, like, I don't know, heavy metal shirt or something. Mm-hmm. And they start playing Guns N' Roses, which, Guns N' Roses, man, they made a paycheck on the... Yeah. I think that's pretty much the only band that's played in this movie, almost.
There was Dio. I remember that.
But like, yeah, Guns N' Roses, man, they get a lot of play in this movie. They got a payday. So this brings forth another kind of just general criticism I have of the movie is the CG in the movie. I think is very uneven. Some of it looks decent. I thought some of it looked almost TV budget.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I kind of felt that was on purpose, but I know what you're talking about.
But
it was like Jim Henson. I got that in Star Wars sometimes too. Yeah.
But he has like this fight where he basically, he's supposed to be helping the Guardians fight these enemies, but he basically just slaughters them himself. But it gets like, I think purposely cheesy where like at one point he's doing like the Jean-Claude Van Damme splits between these two vehicles. And like
that's definitely the reference too.
And then he gives like a Chuck Norris like roundhouse kick to this other one. And like those scenes especially, the CG looks bad. And like maybe you can say it's supposed to be on purpose and looked like cheesy, but I don't know. I
mostly saw it in the characters. I don't know if I saw it like in other stuff.
I saw it definitely in some of the action.
This was another one of those movies that's bordering on too much action, where like I kind of tune out.
They do throw in quite a bit of action. So I think they briefly now cut to Earth with Jane Foster in like the MRI tube or whatever. And we find out, just like in the comics, she does have cancer, and they go all straight to stage 4. It's the bad stuff. Yeah. Anyways, like she's like trying to use her smarts in her own laboratory, testing her blood and stuff to try to come up with a cure, and there's we get Darcy talking to her at the hospital, and we also get Stellan Skarsgård, his doctor character, briefly talking to her on the computer. So we get small cameos from them. But those aren't working. So now she has the idea. Well, maybe something magical related to Thor can help her. And so she goes to New Asgard now? That's on Earth.
Right.
And that was established in
Tonsberg, Norway, I think.
Is that where it is?
I don't know.
I don't know. They established it in like Endgame or one of those movies, But yeah, she goes there and like they have the broken pieces of Mjolnir on display. And you get the sense that this is they turn this place into like a real like touristy place. And like they bring back Matt Damon and Chris Hemsworth's like non-famous brother again to like do like a shitty type of stage play, of them. But anyway, she looks at the pieces and they just start to like move around a bit. So it doesn't give you everything here, but we get the sense. Well, and we also know just from the trailers she's going to become Thor. But right here, they just give you the tease of the moving pieces. So then I think it must go back to Thor and the Guardians. So this race of blue people that Thor saved give him 2 goats that are from the comics. I think in the comics their names are like Tooth Grinder and Tooth Gnasher.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. They don't name them in this movie. And then they just have like this really weird scream that they do like throughout the movie that they go back to. He says goodbye to the Guardians. And there's like a lot of like humorous bits here. One humor bit that I actually did like is there's a part like after they get the goats where they bring them in the ship and they're making their noises or whatever. And like Korg's like you just have to do the right whistle to like get them, and he's like doing different ones. He's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. And then he looks at Mantis and he's like, what about you? You try. And she like makes this like really weird noise and he's like, no, that's not. I thought that was a funny bit though. Yeah. But yeah, anyway. So actually before they leave, I guess this is on the screens inside the Guardian ships, is they get this transmission that's basically, and this is another thing you were alluding to, where instead of like showing Gore killing a bunch of gods, we just kind of get the end result of his handiwork. We're showing on these screens.
Channel 4 News.
Right. All these different dead gods. And then you get a transmission from Sif basically saying, oh, this guy, the God Butcher, and you get the sense that like she's in trouble. And so they're going to go find Sif. Right.
Yeah, that Guardian's messaging system is really useful, and I'm curious to know how it works.
Right. There definitely are some things in this movie that seem very convenient and expositional at times. And so I guess he recognizes where Sif is because he recognizes like the big dead ice creature or whatever.
Yeah.
Falagar.
Yeah, something like that. So then they use his hammer to create the Rainbow Bridge. Like him, I think Korg and the 2 goats go to this planet. They find Sif. She's not dead, but her arm's missing, and she's like all beat up.
Yeah, does he take her from there? She disappears. Like, she wants to stay there and die, but he's like, you won't go to Valhalla if you die here.
Right, because apparently you got to die, like, at the hands during the battle, I guess.
You can't, like, bleed out later.
You can't have too much aftermath, I guess. I mean, but he's like, your arm might go to Valhalla, but you won't. So she's like, fuck, I guess I got to live. And basically, she's gone until the very end of the movie where, like, she's having a one-armed, like, training fight with one of the kids or whatever.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Okay, guys, help me out. What's the next scene?
So she warns Thor that he's coming for Asgard.
Right, so he has an excuse to go home.
Yeah, so he goes to Asgard, and I don't know if we're skipping anything, but when he goes to Asgard, Gore is already like ready to attack.
Oh yeah, I think it actually opens on Gore, and he pulls out the Necrosword and stabs it in the ground, which causes like shadows to form on the ground. And he'll do this many times in the movie. He has control over these like shadow creatures.
Yeah, you can turn them into creatures or something.
So the shadow creatures like come out and start kind of wreaking havoc, and that's when Valkyrie comes out of the sky on Pegasus and like kills one instantly, like with a spear or something. And then they fight a little bit, and that's when Thor shows up with his hammer. And then you get this action scene where they're just like batting these creatures around and shit. And then eventually Mjolnir comes and it's like flinging around, and he's like, you know, who's got Mjolnir, you know? Like it's a big mystery. But yeah, it flings around for a while, and like I think Valkyrie's even like, oh, you're gonna like who's doing this. And then boom, you get that moment from the trailer where Jane catches the hammer, and it's, you know, the big reveal. Although I guess he could, I guess the little masks work because he didn't notice right away that it was her. She's got a new trick though that she uses many times during the movie where she can actually like blow up the pieces of Mjolnir and they just come back and form. But
Right.
you get like this shotgun spread that can like kill a bunch of things at once, you know. So basically they get the upper hand on these creatures, kind of. Gore and Thor end up in a one-on-one fight. And this is another thing where Gore pulls out the sword, and instantly Thor's like, "Oh, is that the Necrosword? I've heard of that."
Yeah.
It's like,
Like
okay.
swords look similar, like a lot.
Yeah.
Well, like in like mythology, though, there are like famous like weapons that are just like known and named.
But he like puts it to his neck so like he can feel like, oh yeah, it hurts or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and then he kills him. Movie's over.
Yeah, yeah. But no, they get like the fight broken up. Gore retreats, but what he does is his shadow monsters steal a bunch of Asgardian kids.
Yeah, that was definitely some like fairy tale dark shit. Monsters that just pack off the kids.
I mean, wasn't it like part of the plot of Batman Returns where like the Penguin was stealing all the firstborn sons or
He
something?
might have.
It was kind of dark too. But yeah, so they steal the kids and get away with them. So yeah, now we get a scene from between Thor and Jane where he's like, okay, take off that mask, you know, and she takes off the mask and it's like, oh, it's you, Jane, or whatever. And I think maybe around here is where they do that little montage of like their relationship in the past.
Maybe, I don't remember when.
Yeah, I don't remember, but that's one of those things where like the timeline on this is weird because didn't he say like at some point that it's been like 6 or 7 years since they broke up?
Like 8 years.
Or 8 years. so yeah, it's like, when did this relationship happen? Like, I guess 2011, 2012, something like that.
Well, I mean, because she was blipped out for 5 years while he was there. So, like, that 5 years was, like, extra, I guess, within there.
Oh, was she blipped?
Yeah.
I didn't remember that part. Where did they reveal that? Was that in a different movie? Or
I saw, like, a breakdown of the
Okay.
trailer for the movie. Somebody else mentioned it.
Oh, okay. But yeah, anyway, like they had this whole montage where they were in love, but eventually like he got caught up in his superheroing, she got caught up in her work, and they just kind of like drifted apart. Trying to think. So I remember they have some sort of like town meeting like inside their
Community center.
community center. And I remember he had this bit where like Thor is like trying to call Mjolnir like back to him, but like it's not working. And then they set up this whole thing where like the hammer is or the axe is jealous of the hammer, which is, I don't know. Again, I think maybe they go for too many jokes in this thing. I don't know.
Pardon-moi.
I did forget to say, like, the reason the hammer, well, maybe the reason the hammer went to Jane was in the montage. They show like one night she was in bed and he like whispers to the hammer like, always protect her.
Yeah, something like that.
But like she would still have to be quote unquote worthy, right, to handle Mjolnir.
I don't know. It did that magical thing when he said always protect her. So
That's true. So I guess it's a mystery. But basically, he just then has this rousing speech where he tells the people that he's going to get the kids back. And they have this thing where he like, rainbow bridges like through the roof of this place, but then immediately like crashes. And did they really explain that? Like why?
yeah,
Basically, the hammer just flew him over there and crashed him because it was jealous.
Oh, because it was
just mad at him.
Mad at the hammer situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what they're going to do is, no, I'm actually leaving something out. So when they're in the town meeting, one of the kids that was taken is Heimdall's son, and he also has Heimdall's like special vision power. And so he uses that to contact Thor, and that also allows basically a ghost Thor to kind of travel to where the kids are and talk to them.
Yeah.
And so, again, this is a little convenient to me, too. The fact that Thor just knows all this stuff. Like, oh, that's the Necro Sword. And, oh, I know where this place is. It's, basically he goes to where the kids are, which is now in, like,
the Shadow Realm.
Outer space. And he's like, yeah, I recognize this place. This is the Shadow Realm. Again, maybe a little
there's
convenient.
no color there, so I guess that's a big indicator.
I guess so. But yeah, he talks to the kids, tells them, "Hey, I'm going to put together this big team of gods to come rescue you guys." And maybe this is something they also talk about is they're going to go to this omnipotent city. Is that what they call it? That houses all these gods, and they're going to get up this team of gods to go after Gore because he's the god butcher, and they need to stop him, right? So what they do is they have a flying sailboat, which they also, like Viking ship, that they also show in the trailers, and they're going to basically use Thor's axe to create a rainbow bridge and have the goats pull them along the rainbow bridge to go
to the city
where they can go, long distances. Yeah. So yeah, I think now they go to the city. There's some dialogue between Thor and Valkyrie where we get the sense that Thor is still in love with Jane, but he's denying it basically. So then they put on these robes, and why exactly did they have to put on the robes?
Just to fit in.
Well, the thing is, like they said that access to the city was invitation only, and they weren't invited, so they're just trying to blend in, I guess.
Yeah, they took them from like emotion gods, I guess. They were like gods of emotions.
Yeah, I guess. They're supposed to stand for
okay.
certain emotions.
So they're basically posing as these emotion gods
Yeah.
to get in. Okay. Yeah, because I was like, well, Thor is basically a god, and Jane with the hammer is basically a god. Valkyrie's basically a god. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the rules are. But okay, so they put on these robes to get into the chamber with all the gods. Okay, so Zeus comes down, played by Russell Crowe. And this is what I was talking about. He makes a choice here. Apparently Zeus is like offensively Italian.
No, he's Greek.
It's a Greek accent.
Was it? Well, that's what I was like. I was like, okay, it would make sense to have a Greek accent, but to me it sounded very Italian.
They're close.
I guess I don't know what the Greek accent sounds like, really.
Yeah, I would think of Mario, so probably not the best.
That's almost what it sounded like to me, though. I don't know. It sounded very over the top to me, but I guess if you're going for humor, it works. But
I mean, I've heard Greek people talk before.
Yeah.
That accent wasn't like way off.
Okay, was it accurate?
I mean, I thought it was Greek.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I don't. I've never heard an actual Greek person talk, so I don't know what the. Okay, maybe it was spot on then. Maybe Russell Crowe nailed it.
Should look and see what Greek people think.
Yeah, that's true.
But basically, Zeus is this like pompous asshole, and he just starts talking about like their plans for the orgy and like these things where like very soon, like Natalie Portman is like, oh, this guy sounds like a real piece of shit or whatever. But because Thor was just talking about how like he idolized him and like how he based a lot of his gimmick on him, like, oh, he's the god of lightning, I'm the god of thunder, that kind of thing. But basically, the plan is they're going to tell Zeus about Gore and that they need to
Right,
band
they're trying to
together.
recruit some people to their side.
Right. But they're talking like get Zeus's attention, and he's like, "Who dares like talk or whatever," and like Thor stands up and he's like, "Well, come over to the stage, right?" And so Thor tells him, the plan about Gore and like the plan, and like the more I think about it, like. You would have thought there would have been many gods here that would have been like, you know what, he has a good idea. Like, let's just go kill this, gang up on this guy, get the Necrosword away from him so that, like, we don't have to worry about this shit.
Yeah.
They kind of caused too much shit before they could get to that, though.
Now, do you guys remember this exact conversation between him and Zeus? I mean, I remember, like, the bit from the trailer where he, like, he binds his hands and he's like, let's get that robe off you or whatever, and he flicks, and like all of his clothes come off.
Yeah. He like lays down what's happening. Gore's coming to all the gods, and Zeus is like, so that's not our concern. Asgard is, Asgard's problem. If he's coming after you guys, you deal with it.
And doesn't he like kind of say that like, oh, we know about him, he's not a big deal, or
yeah,
He's
they said he
killed some
killed some
minor
low level.
gods.
Yeah.
And they think they're safe in the city because there's no way to get there or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thor is basically like, well, if you won't help us, let me borrow your lightning bolt, because that'll help us, I guess. And of course, he refuses, and he gets pissed off. First, he throws one at Korg, which makes him like shatter. And for a second, it's like, oh, did Korg die? No, his face is still intact.
Yeah.
And like Groot, he eventually grows back. So they kind of take the tension out there. I will say, and I heard a lot of people in the audience laugh when it happened. Like Zeus gets down and he walks up to Thor, and he has like, it almost looks like a tennis skirt.
Oh yeah, yeah. He kind of does a little.
Little curtsy looking move.
Right. That bit was funny. But they basically have like kind of a quiet conversation, where he's like, yeah, we know about this guy or whatever, but like we're not gonna help you.
Yeah, we're not going to create a panic and bunch of
Right,
stuff.
he's like, panic is bad or whatever. Anyway, this leads them to getting in a fight. Eventually, like, Thor gets a hold of Zeus's lightning bolt, throws it through his chest, and we'll find out later he didn't die either. But I mean, he is a god of gods, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely didn't look very good for him.
But basically, this now all of like Zeus's like minions are fighting, so we get just another action scene where they're beating on these enemies that kind of like are they bleeding sand or like a golden color?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, are these like even
Real?
real alive entities, or
Yeah.
these are like
made up.
like some kind of like golem or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they were made up because they don't want you to feel bad for like innocent people being killed by the heroes.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right. So I remember Valkyrie. She like ties Korg's face to like the back of her head with like her hair, and Valkyrie ends up grabbing the lightning bolt. Korg does his whistle to get the goats, and they get out of there. So now they're on their way to the Shadow Realm. They have like a moment here where like I remember they all four of them have some sort of conversation, but then they split off. Like Thor and Jane go out onto the boat, and then Valkyrie and Korg stay behind. And Korg basically just, again, I think they sometimes use him to use a lot of exposition, because basically he has this whole thing where he just like describes her character to a T, like Valkyrie, where he's like, oh, so the woman you love died, so now you're just using the bottle and an occasional dalliance to like shield yourself or something, but it's causing you to not be happy, or he basically, I was like, okay, I don't know if you need to spell it out like that much, but fine.
Yeah, Gore does it again later too. They keep reminding you of her story. They like lay it out for, because Gore later on he like kind of taunts her with the story of her past.
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they do bring that up a couple times. So now Thor and Jane have a moment on the ship where basically Thor confesses that he still loves her and wants to be with her, and this is where she finally tells him that she has cancer. And do you guys think it's weird? I mean, they do this in the comics too, where like, but I thought like it was weird the way they did it here, where like she uses the name Thor, right? Yeah. Like she's just like the mighty Thor. The mighty Thor. And like I get in the comics, like you got to name the comic something, they wanted to distinguish like the run with her as Thor from the regular Thor, so they called it the mighty Thor. But her just insisting that her name's the mighty Thor seemed maybe a little weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it did seem like she was just taking Thor's name just like that. And like she could have easily been like the mighty Jane Foster or something, anything else.
But I mean, not a big deal, but it
just seemed weird, yeah.
So now I think he asks her like what she wants, and she's like, well, I still want to go on this mission and help these kids. So he's like, okay. So yeah, they end up going to the Shadow Realm, and of course, like the color saturation goes black and white.
Now so there is that, and at this point, like I was definitely like thinking there's going to be like some '80s thing when they kill the Gore, where like all the colors started coming back into the world.
Oh yeah,
I was like, this is definitely going to happen.
like a Pleasantville type thing.
Yeah.
Now it is like Sin City-ish because you do get flourishes of color.
Yeah.
Like the lightning bolt is still like a golden color, and like when Jane uses Mjolnir, it makes like a flash of color on her uniform and on her face and things like that. So it is a cool look. There are like flashes of
rainbow in the dark.
Yeah. So anyway, they get there and they find. Oh, there actually was a funny scene where basically they kind of crash into this place, and you hear the goats like making squeal again.
Yeah, the planet looks a lot bigger from far. Like it seems like they're far from it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they find the cage that the kids were in, but it's empty. And then they find like, I guess it's like tent or something that they go into. And eventually, like, they're checking this place out. Jane finds these drawings that I guess Gore made, and she puts it together that, like, oh, he needs the Bifrost to do his evil plan. And this reminds me, we skipped a thing that was briefly mentioned, I think, in the conversation with Zeus, where he's like, we believe he wants to go to this eternity place where he'll get one wish that could wipe us all out.
Yeah, but don't they also say he doesn't have the key, which makes me assume they know what the key is?
Yeah, it makes it seem like Zeus knows.
Yeah, apparently they knew what the key was, which is the ability to make the Bifrost.
Maybe he should have told him that.
So Jane smartly, like, immediately grabs Is Stormbringer the name of the axe? Stormbreaker. And she chucks it into outer space. But then Gore shows up and basically a bunch of like shadow octopus tentacles like grab all three of them really. Like I think Jane throws Mjolnir at him, but like misses, and he just like gets them all. And basically he's putting pressure on the women so that Thor will call the axe. Like he's like, call the axe. And yeah, he like has a conversation here with them where he kind of taunts them. And I think this is what you were saying with Valkyrie, kind of brings up how the gods like maybe let her sisters all die or something.
Yeah, it didn't help her at that time.
And it seems like, doesn't he know that Jane is sick or something?
Yeah, he mentions that she's dying and stuff.
Right. He also does this thing where like he grabs him and like pulls him into the darkness, but then in the very next scene he talks to Thor and he just like brings him right back, which I thought was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
It does remind me, it's not important to the story at all, but there was a scene earlier on where like Gore had this conversation with the kids while they were in the cage and kind of like scared them a little bit and stuff like that. Although you got to figure, like, with his daughter dying, he doesn't really want to hurt the kids, or probably.
I wouldn't think so, but what exactly his motivation was in that scene, I'm not sure.
I think basically just to tell them that you can't put your faith in the gods.
Yeah, I guess.
And, that the gods suck or whatever. So he finally puts enough pressure on Thor that Thor does call the axe, and it causes this like huge explosion and gets like distance between them. So now it's basically like Gore and his army of shadow creatures versus the three of them.
Yeah.
Valkyrie, Jane, and Thor. They have this big fight, but eventually Gore stabs Valkyrie in the back.
And when we were talking about, like, he didn't kill anyone important, at that point in the movie, I was like, oh, thank God he killed a character.
But nope.
Like, finally,
Some stakes.
He did something. He butchered a god. Like, he did something. But, yeah. Anyway.
I thought maybe, because I knew, that Russell Crowe was going to be in this, and I thought maybe a lot of, like, the Greek gods would be in it. And I thought maybe they would just have him butcher all of them to let us know that, oh, this guy is serious. But no, they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But now we get Russell Crowe again.
I wonder how Greeks feel about that. Oh, he's coming back. What?
I felt like he was like some racist like representation of like you'd see in like a New York pizzeria or something. Like that was his Greek take on Zeus.
Yeah, I could definitely seeing it be like something he hasn't practiced a lot. He just kind of winged it.
It'd be funny if he did offend people and eventually they were like, okay, we're going to make him like Ben Kingsley. And then the real Zeus is coming. But anyway, so now they try to escape this planet with Valkyrie, but like Gore grabs the axe as they're leaving. So they go, but he gets the axe. So now we're in the hospital with Jane dying of cancer, getting the chemo treatment. And the doctor, we basically find out that every time she picks up the hammer, it's basically kind of zapping her human strength so that she can't fight off the cancer as well.
Which doesn't seem like protecting her very well.
Mm-hmm. Right. But my whole thing is like, this is stage 4 cancer. She is probably fucked anyways.
Well, like she has this huge transition when she has the hammer, when she doesn't. I was like, what if she just keeps the hammer all the time?
That's the other thing. Would she die if she just kept the hammer?
Like every time she throws it, she doesn't just fall down, but sometimes conveniently, like she detaches or whatever. It's a weird transition.
It's magic.
It's magic.
Yeah, I don't know if she can like sever that connection with the hammer to
Yeah,
go
I
back
don't
to
know.
normal. Maybe that's the explanation. But yeah, basically, Thor has this conversation with her, where he basically is pleading her, like he's like, the choice is yours, Jane, but I'd rather you not go on the mission with me, because it's going to lead to you for sure dying. And also, I don't know if it was here or maybe earlier, but we do find out that Jane's mother also died of cancer when she was a kid, so it like runs in her family or whatever. Then Thor has a scene outside with Valkyrie where it's like, yep, she's fine. She's missing a kidney, but she's doesn't have to be in the hospital. She can just sit on the bench, so she's tough, I guess. Although I guess Valkyrie, I don't know, like the Asgardians, like they're definitely tougher than human beings, but like as far as like how, like, are they all like demigods basically? I'm not sure.
I don't think so. But I mean, the Valkyrie obviously is.
Yeah, and like if all those Asgardian kids, are somewhat godly, you would kind of think that, oh, maybe Gore would like to kill them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. They're future gods, aren't they?
I mean, the one kid has Heimdall's powers.
Yeah.
Also, we talked about Guns N' Roses. So Heimdall's kid has like, his name's really like Alistair or some
Astrid.
Astrid,
yeah.
Astrid. But he's like, he loves Guns N' Roses so much that he wants to be known as Axel. And I'm like, do kids in this day and age even fucking know who Guns N' Roses are? I don't think they do.
Dude, didn't the rock guy like call him asshole? Which Axl Rose was an asshole. So.
I didn't even notice that.
I actually, for a minute, I thought I heard asshole, but maybe he said Axel, and it just with his accent kind of sounded like asshole. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again.
I thought it was just a comic relief thing.
Asshole.
Call the kid an asshole.
Now, I forget, without having the axe, what does Thor use to get back to where Gore is? Does he use... Because Mjolnir is still with Jane. He's got the lightning bolt.
He's got the lightning bolt, yeah.
Is that able to create the rainbow connection?
Maybe he did use that? Yeah, because in their first fight, Gore got the axe and they got sent back. Okay, yeah. So I don't remember.
I mean, I think the only thing he had was the lightning bolt. But I don't know, it'd be weird if that was imbued with the ability to create the Bifrost. I don't know. Kind of weird. But anyway, now Gore, he made his way to this Eternity place. He plants the Stormbreaker in the ground, which is now opening the Bifrost 2. Well, I don't know if he's in Eternity or if the bridge leads to Eternity.
Yeah,
I think it leads
like
to
a gate
it.
or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's in the place that leads there anyway. So at some point, like, the statue falls over and it looks like it's going to smash all the kids. But Thor shows up in the nick of time and he throws it over. This part I thought was weird because I would have thought as soon as he did that, Gore would have realized he was there. And it seems like the case, but then he has time to have this whole speech with the kids, so I don't really know. Anyway, he tells all the kids to grab a weapon, and then I guess with the power of the lightning bolt or whatever, he's able to imbue all these kids with power, which, again, I thought this was convenient and weird and something that's never been set up.
Yeah. I don't know how you can make other Thors. Like, he couldn't have used that power before. He couldn't have made the Guardians other Thors help him fight battles. Like,
yeah.
It raises questions.
yeah.
I mean, I guess if it was the Thunderbolt or the Lightning Bolt, they gave that power, fine. But then, like, how does he know it can do that? I mean, there's just a lot of convenient things that you just kind of go, okay, I guess that's the deal. But anyway, so yeah, there's this fight. Like, basically, the kids are all fighting the monsters while him and Gore square off. Eventually, Gore gets the upper hand. It looks like he might kill Thor when, surprise, surprise, Natalie Portman shows up. Although she was having, like, somehow they have this connection where, like, when she was in the hospital, she was sensing that he was in danger.
Yeah, something.
But anyway, she shows up with the hammer. Thor's like, shit, Jane, you shouldn't have done that. But now they're basically teaming up, tag teaming, fighting Gore. I don't remember beat for beat this fight. I know they go back and forth a couple times, and eventually they end up breaking the Necro Sword.
Right. Thor kind of ties him up or something, and then she smashes the sword with her hammer.
Now, this part confused me a little bit. Does she start absorbing the Necro Sword into Mjolnir?
Well, there's a bunch of pieces, so when she brings the sword back together, she pulls in a bunch of pieces with it. And so the sword is trying to reassemble in his hand, but she has some of the pieces, and then she just like smashes it or something, and the sword disintegrates.
Yeah. I for a minute I was like, oh, it'd be cool if she absorbs the sword and then Mjolnir is changed to have like some extra power.
Kind of something, yeah.
But then, yeah, immediately, like, it just ends up destroying the sword. So I'm like, oh, I guess that's done with? But basically, now this, like, what happened that gave Gore the time to sneak out the back door?
Did Jane Foster, like, die or something?
She's in pretty bad shape there, and he goes to her. And that's when he goes to the gate, which has been opened in the course of the fight.
Oh, yeah. Now, does that explosion, like, explode? Well, Mjolnir's not gone because it kind of shows up later.
Yeah, it reassembles, I think, but it did, like, I think it did, like, explode and broke all the pieces or whatever.
So, like, it's temporarily exploded, and that's what causes her to...
Maybe, but she goes back to her dying self.
Okay. So now Gore goes through the gateway, and it goes to this place where there's, like, I don't know, water on the ground.
Yeah, like 4 inches of water everywhere in all directions.
And there's, like, this figure that I don't know if that's supposed to be, like, some
Eternity.
sort of... That's Eternity? Okay. Yeah. So is Eternity, like, just like another god or something?
I think it's, like, a very, like, probably more powerful, like a... Like, I from the comics, they make it seem like there has to be one Eternity in every universe for the universe to even exist.
Oh, okay.
So he's pretty important, or whatever it is.
But basically, Eternity's just like this wishing well where you get one wish. And, like, Thor, like, tells Gore that, like, you won, but he's like, you don't really want this. What you're looking for is love. And, like, Gore, like, I rejects that notion at first, I guess. Now, did Thor somehow know that his daughter had died? Because doesn't he bring it up?
He told him earlier, right? Didn't he?
That could have been.
Yeah, he did know somehow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe when he had him tied up, maybe he told his story to him about how his daughter died and the gods did nothing or whatever.
Could be.
That's probably it. So then, like, for a minute, you wonder, like, is Gore going to use his one wish to save Jane, maybe? Like, is he going to have a redemption arc here?
I really didn't want that. I was like, there's no explanation for why Gore would want to save Jane. Like, if he has a choice between his daughter and Jane, it's like, no competition.
But, I mean, here's another thing. Like, after he made his wish, Thor doesn't get, like, a wish.
Only the first person who sees Eternity ever can get a wish.
Yeah, it's a one wish.
It's a one wish.
It's a one wisher. Unless you wish for a million wishes, which he didn't.
Dumbass.
Yeah, can't you just have like a bunch of stipulations in your one wish?
I wish that this is.
So, I mean, now Thor just has to go see Doctor Strange, go to a different universe. He's got the Bifrost. He knows where everything is. Infinite wishes.
There you go. Yeah, there is a multiverse, so maybe. Gore reveals that he's dying, and he's like, I can't bring her back. I'm going to die and she'll be all alone. And then Jane basically looks at Thor or whatever and she's like, she will not be alone because like Thor, implying that Thor can take care of her.
Yeah, she straight up volunteered Thor to be a father.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life.
Thor should have been just like, fuck this, I'm out.
See you.
So yeah, Gore uses his one wish to bring his daughter back. And like as he's dying, like he asks Thor, "Will you promise to take care of her?" And Thor says yes. So now, so Jane dies, but instead of just dying, she like turns into like dust.
Mm-hmm. Like Zeus or like Odin did.
Yeah, the Zeus.
Which right there, I was like, oh, that's a curious way to kill her off. So I guess now we kind of start getting all the wrap up, where like back in
Or Odin, not Zeus.
Odin, yeah. We go back to new Asgard. The kids are all there, and I think aren't we getting even more narration now by Korg?
Probably. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he is the one who tells the story about what happens with Thor and
Yeah, and Jane, she gets this nice big statue of her as Lady Thor. So yeah, the kids are all back. They're learning to fight. We get and that's where Sif with the one arm is, kind of train fighting with Heimdall's kid. And I mean, I know the very end of this movie, but I think I'm forgetting some things that maybe happen right in this area.
I don't know. I think you can
yeah, I don't
pretty much go to the ending. And
Okay. Well,
cutscenes.
yeah, so Korg is narrating that now Thor has become a dad, basically. He's taking care of this little girl, making her pancakes. And they have this, like, funny little banter where, like, she doesn't like the pancakes. And, like, he's like, okay, put on your boots. And she's like, no, I'm going to wear these, like, animal slippers or whatever. And, like, they have this, like, kind of funny back and forth. But eventually she agrees to put on the boots. And, like, she, like, painted Mjolnir with, like, some chalk or something. And he's like, oh, very creative or whatever. So then he opens, like, the door. And, like, they're on an alien planet, and he's like, you see those striped aliens? Like, they're the good guys. We're going to help them. And so she's like, okay, yeah, help the good ones. And so they start running, and I think now, do they do the thing where, like, Storm or Thor has the axe and she has Mjolnir?
Oh, no, he has Mjolnir and she has the axe.
Oh, okay. So yeah, basically they like have this whole running. They're running. They get the lightning in their eyes, and Korg's narration says that they're known as Love and Thunder. So like the girl's name is Love, I guess, and that's how we end the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get more Guns N' Roses playing. And, okay, so let's do there's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. So the mid-credit scene is Zeus now still alive. He's basically complaining about how...
He seemed petty at the end.
Right. He's basically complaining about how, like, people used to look up to the gods, but now they look up for superheroes, like almost like superheroes have replaced the gods. And he's like, I forget exactly what he says, but he's like, we'll show them, right, son, or whatever. Does he say Hercules?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I thought he said Oculus.
No, I thought he said Hercules.
I couldn't hear. I mean, Hercules is a character in Marvel Comics, so I'm kind of thinking it's Hercules.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys recognize who the actor was?
I had no idea.
I didn't. It was too quick. I didn't. Or maybe it wasn't even someone like super famous.
I hope it was an actual Greek person with a Greek accent, though, because Marvel's really making a choice otherwise.
And then, okay, so then we wait through all the credits, and like I will say, like most post-credit scenes are nothing. This one was a little bit interesting. So, Jane ends up going to Valhalla. She's greeted by Heimdall. I mean, that's basically it. But then it goes and says Thor will return. Now, do you guys think that the implication was maybe Jane Foster Thor will return somehow? Or do you just think regular Thor?
I think regular Thor. That's what came to my mind. Regular Thor will be back.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the fact that we know there is like this afterlife and like death to them doesn't necessarily mean like what death to a regular human being. I think they at least are leaving it open so that they have the possibility of bringing her back.
For sure, yeah. I think in the comics, they do bring her back.
Yeah, I've read the comic, and like, I forget exactly how it happens, but yeah, I don't think she ever quite dies in the comic. She actually gets rid of the cancer, and then she just becomes Valkyrie.
Okay. Maybe. Who knows then? Yeah. She could come back as Thor.
Or another Valkyrie. You know, actually what would have been smart to do was to actually have stakes. Like you were saying, they could have actually killed, Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie and then eventually brought Jane in to be the new Valkyrie.
Yeah, they should have killed like half the gods in this movie.
I feel like we should have saw Gore definitely butchering more gods.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying like, oh yeah, trust us, he butchered these gods.
That's another thing, seeing like the trailers, I was vaguely thinking like he is going to straight up kill Russell Crowe's ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's perfect for it. Like he was set up for it,
Like that would have been a statement like Zeus, the god of gods, and he's fucking butchered by this guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it would have been like, it would have gone in line with like Zeus being like, oh, we don't need to worry about him. And then later on he gets killed by him. Then everybody's like, holy cow, this is a real threat, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they could have established him more, done more.
Now, they allude to an orgy in this one, but the boys, they went for it.
Nobody had a giant penis in this this movie that we know of.
Thor 5, the god of orgies.
It's just him and Hercules going at it.
Oh yeah, we found out that apparently like Korg's race of like rock people, like they're all male.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they just hold hands over lava or something and make new kids
For a month.
And at the end, he meets like one with a mustache named Bruce or something. or no, Dwayne, I think.
Oh yeah, Dwayne.
Dwayne the Rock.
Oh, Dwayne the Rock.
gosh.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
You're right though, Dwayne the Rock. They should have got the Rock the voice. Maybe they did. Special cameo by the Rock as the gay Rock.
Well, he's in the DC universe now.
That's true. That's true.
Twice over, right? He plays a dog in one, and he plays Black Adam in one.
Oh, does the Super Pets count?
I don't know.
Man, I wish that movie would come out already, because every time we watch one of these movies, we've got to suffer through that trailer. I'm like, enough of it already.
The trailers were not exciting before this movie. And the way this movie starts, it doesn't do the whole Marvel logo before it starts. So, like, you go from a trailer for, like, like you were saying, those movies, and then you get, like, Gore the God Butcher walking through a desert at the very beginning.
Right, it just starts with Gore, and then eventually it goes to the Marvel title, where we get kind of like a rock and roll heavy metal version of, like, the song they usually play over those credits, but... It was kind of cool, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might have been a slightly better transition that way because I don't know. You don't really want something kind of upbeat or something right before you do a dramatic.
But that's what I'm saying. Like we just saw like M&M commercials and stuff.
Yeah,
and then, like
you're right. They probably could have paced it a little better because it wasn't immediately apparent that this wasn't
a commercial.
Another commercial. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the movie right away.
I was pretty sure, but I was like, they didn't really lead in that well or give you a big break. Or
like, what is this a commercial for?
Sand.
Dune 2.
Oh, they started making that, by the way.
what they're like, you need to quench your thirst? Here's a Sprite.
LeBron James.
All right, guys. Any other thoughts you can think of that maybe we didn't cover about the movie?
They brought back the actor characters a second time in this movie for some reason, as if we wanted to see them. Like when there was like a town hall scene, they for some reason like shoehorned in like Matt Damon and the other guy.
Right.
Like, oh, did you mention that already?
Yeah, briefly.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. They have basically they redo the events of Ragnarok with Matt Damon as Loki. I forget the Hemsworth that plays on Westworld is they use him.
Okay.
Liam?
No, it's not Liam, but he is a Hemsworth.
Okay. How many Hemsworths are there?
At least three. And then Melissa McCartney, right, as Hela.
That was a bad choice.
That was weird. That just felt like another fat joke.
Yeah, that was she doesn't deserve to portray Kate Blanchett.
You're right. They should have used Rosie O'Donnell. So yeah, I guess we always do this. What would you guys rate on a scale of 1 to 10? Thor: Love and Thunder.
I thought it was a little bit better than middle of the pack, but it still had some room for improvement. Like there were some issues with it. I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm probably give it an 8. It's a solid B.
I'm also 7 out of 10. I thought it was fine, but yeah, I just tonally, I think maybe they hit the jokes too hard. Maybe should have made it a little more serious, given like the nature of the villain. Also, like, I always wonder, like, you know, Thanos. One of the reasons I think people like him so much is he did carry through multiple movies. And, like, a lot of their villains don't. Like, maybe it would have been good to have Gore, like, actually have an arc through multiple movies.
I think Gore would have been a big enough villain to have, like, a good, at least 2 movies, you know, like...
Because I think definitely as far as the Thor comics go, like, he's the best Thor villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I do hope that they touch on Null. So the Necrosword comes from a god named Null, who created it and used it to kill that celestial nowhere. Right? That's a theory in the MCU. That's what people are thinking. That Null beheaded that celestial that's called Nowhere.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think Gore might be like a somewhat of a prelude to Null in the future. It might be. I don't know. I hope so, because Null is a very fascinating villain.
I kind of wonder how they're going to, like, start seeding the old... like Celestials in, because the Eternals like introduced the Celestials.
Yeah, and there were 2 Celestials in here just babysitting Omnipotent City for some reason. I was like, what was that all about?
Oh, I didn't notice. Were there Eternals there?
Yeah, there were 2 Celestials.
Or Celestials.
Just right outside the like window, or I guess like from where they were like talking inside that big room.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, like in the comics, the Celestials like make it a point to tell the Earth gods not to interfere with Earth. So maybe that's like the Celestials being like, you stay here, you don't interfere with these worlds. But then there are plenty of worlds with gods who need them, who just got killed by Gore. So I don't think that's it either. I'm not sure why Celestials would be sitting out there like that.
Yeah, it is interesting. You got to imagine that eventually they're going to use Galactus.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think they've already kind of like laid the seeds with the Eternals.
Yeah, and like they had that like you know, large Eternal or Celestial, I mean, that's like gonna come back at some point, it sounded like.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you mean the one that came from Earth?
How?
Oh, you're talking about
Arishem.
Arishem,
yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to imagine that one's coming back eventually.
Yeah, I would think so. They got to follow up with what happened with those Eternals.
I was wondering, like, when do you think we're going to see those Eternal characters next? Do you think they're actually going to make an Eternals 2, or do you think they'll just kind of seed them into a different movie?
I hope they seed them into a different movie.
You don't want just a straight up Eternals 2?
Yeah, I'd be okay with them doing like an X-Men like mashup with this. Like, you know, they talk about their own like history of how they were created and, you know, their lineage from the Eternals too, or the Celestials.
Man, it's going to be a tricky time, like, trying to get the X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so many of them. I mean, it'd be smart to, like, keep the team just, like, the main ones that people actually care about. But I have a feeling, like, eventually they're going to just keep adding and adding more and more of them. I mean, TV could handle some of them, but... Man, I don't know. There's just so many of those characters.
And Marvel, they have no problem with making a show out of a spin-off show out of like a small character too. So like we might be bombarded with a bunch of TV shows.
I mean, if they're making one out of that character from Hawkeye,
From Echo, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I could see them making almost anything.
Yeah.
Now, you said you didn't watch this week's Miss Marvel, right?
No, I didn't see it.
So I guess next week we'll have to do both 5 and 6.
Let's do it.
We'll save that for next week. We are over an hour, but do you guys have any other thoughts about Love and Thunder? Or?
Did you guys pick up on that scene where Gore is about to kill Thor, and then when Natalie Portman shows up, it was almost like a repeat from Avengers Endgame when Captain America used the hammer to get Thanos off of Thor before he stabs him with the axe. And this is like almost the exact same thing where Gore is about to put the necro sword through Thor's chest, and Thor's trying to stop him, and then Natalie Portman hits him with the hammer from the side.
I didn't pick up on it, but you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of a similar thing. Because, like, Endgame, because, like, Thanos is, like, trying to, like, stab Thor.
Yeah.
And that's when Chris Evans, like,
Yeah.
gets Mjolnir. So, similar thing, right?
Yeah. Little callback.
Another entry into the MCU. I think what's the next one? I think Black Panther 2?
Yeah, I think so.
Although, originally that was going to come out this year, but is it anymore? Do you know?
I saw like a commercial, or not a commercial, but some sort of advertisement for it. I don't know, like a YouTube ad or something. I'm not sure.
I think COVID slowed down their production quite a bit, so I think maybe that one's coming out next year.
I know they were talking about making Letitia Wright the new standard bearer, I guess, for Black Panther. So I don't know if they're still going with that, or if they changed their minds, if that pushed things back.
I don't know, because they had that whole controversy with her that was
COVID.
holding up production because she wouldn't get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know if they want to go with with her. I mean, they've rumored, too, that, like, that other guy could potentially be Black Panther. I forget the character's name. He's, like, the big
Jabari tribe leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. But yeah, we'll see. Now on the DC front, we got Black Adam coming this year, right? And then what else? Shazam?
Flash.
No, Flash. They postponed to like next summer. But then there's so much controversy going on with Ezra Miller that nobody really knows what their plan is there.
That's so messed up, man. They made a whole movie, and then this guy has to go and.
I think they've already announced that like they're not going to go with him as Flash like moving forward, which I mean doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I think they kind of just have to grin and bear it and put out the movie with him.
Yeah, they're not going to throw away like $200 million.
Yeah, it's too much money, and it would also be too much money to digitally replace him with someone else too. It'd be a fortune that they would probably never recoup. So
Yeah.
I think they just kind of got to put it out no matter what. But it's a bad situation for him for sure. Man, but like, what's the next superhero movie that you guys are really excited for? Well, I guess Guardians 3 I think is coming out next year. That would probably be mine.
Yeah, Guardians has been pretty solid.
I do want to see. I know this is gonna sound weird, but I want to see what Kang does in Ant-Man Quantumania, just to see if they like build on his character, what they're gonna do the next few years with him, if he's just like a one-time thing or what.
Yeah, that's interesting because like, you know, the Loki is getting a season 2, so it's like, and I don't know what comes out first between Quantumania and Loki season 2, but you got to figure like he's going to factor into both of them, I would think.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the next big baddie. It seems like so. I'm curious to see how they build him up.
I don't know if he's going to be like a huge baddie or not. I kind of think they're going to use him in those things and just be done with him.
Yeah, he could just be for like the TV shows. I'm not sure. I would like, a character who's like touched on all these different like Marvel properties to be like the main villain. I'd like to see him in Ant-Man, and then like, maybe like old Fantastic Four where he's like Ramatut in Egypt and like, different places.
I think that is a way to kind of build up a villain is, if you use them in many different places.
Yeah.
Kind of like they did with Thanos. It like makes people go, oh, this guy just must be something,
Yeah.
And like he's affecting like all these people rather than just like this one specific superhero.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean that is something that's true. They could do interesting stuff now that they're doing TV and movies, and like they could actually have a character that runs through a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever really seen that before, so this would be a first, like to have where like the TV shows and the movies all have like a similar villain who's like orchestrating all kinds of stuff behind the scenes.
Man, I gotta say, like most of the upcoming DC stuff, I hate to say it, but it's not exciting me. Like Black Adam, like I'll watch, but I'm not like super excited. Same with like Shazam 2. Like the first one was fine, but like I'm not like chomping at the bit. Aquaman 2, like I honestly don't even know if we should watch it. Did you see Aquaman, the first one?
Yeah.
Did you like it? Because I didn't care for it at all.
It was okay for the one time watch. That was fine, but I wouldn't watch it again. It was a lot of like an octopus playing drums or something, I think.
Yeah. It was ridiculous, and it was also just to me like I never cared about the characters, and so it was just like action overload for me. It was like you were talking about those movies where it's just all action, and you're like, God, I'm bored. I don't give a shit about any of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, can't say I'm excited.
I gotta say, Black Adam, I'm kind of interested in just because it has like other team members that are being introduced, like other heroes or anti-heroes. I'm not sure. So maybe they're building something with that. I don't know.
That's true. It's not just Black Adam. It does have like some of those other
like Dr. Fate. And
kind of Justice Society type of characters in it. So. Yeah, that could be. I think it has like Hawkman right in it too,
yeah.
And so yeah, maybe it could be interesting having some of those other heroes that we don't get much of. But yeah, there you have it. Our review of Thor: Love and Thunder. I think the general consent. Man, I feel like a lot of these movies were like, we like it, don't quite love it, but. It was good. It was good. I think we can totally recommend going to the theater and seeing Love and Thunder on the big screen. But anyway, if you like this, please go ahead and subscribe to us both on the YouTube channel and on your podcast service of choice. Give us a thumbs up, leave comments, positive reviews, and why not come over and follow us on Twitter, guys? Where can people find you on the Twitter?
A name for this too, and that's number 2.
At Unsolicited SUG.
And you can, of course, find me at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. And that is going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Have a good one.